Well, I'm going to tell you a story about Thomas Charles Bingham I and his experience with World War I. Well, my grandfather, Thomas Bingham, known as Charlie, was born in 1896 in England. And he grew up in a coal mining based economy in northern England, probably near the town of Stoke-on-Trent. Now, working in the coal mines was hard and dangerous work, and it paid poorly, but Charlie didn't see any alternative. Life changed when Charlie was 18 years old, and in August, Great Britain declared war on what was then called the Triple Alliance. It was Germany, Austria-Hungary Empire, and Italy. Now, actually, Britain's focus was on Germany because it had attacked France, and therefore Britain entered what would be called the Great War. During the 1960s, when I was about 12, I sat down with my grandfather, whom I knew as Bob. It was a name given to him by my older sister Gail, who could not pronounce grandpa when she was an infant. And anyway, I asked him to tell me about his experience in World War I. Much to the surprise of my father, William Webster Bingham, he did just that. My father later told me that he had never told him what he had told me that day, and I am sharing below from memory. So keep in mind, it is now 2020 and I'm writing this, so as my memory goes back more than half a century, but I will write it in the first person, meaning I am doing my best to tell it as I heard it. So this is Bob's story of his World War I experience. So war broke out in August of 1914 when I was a teenager. Boys my age were signing up to fight against what we understood was a threat to the peace of Europe and ultimately to my homeland and family. Speaking of family, I had a lot of brothers and sisters. There were about a dozen of us, but one had died early in life. And all of us who volunteered to fight in this war had to go to training camps. But there was little time to prepare. The Germans were already on the move and overtaking France, with whom we were allied. And it was not long before we were given a rifle and joined the infantry, and I will tell you about our first confrontation with the Germans. My troop was following an old Roman road that wandered through the French countryside. It was a beautiful area dotted with small farmhouses and cottages, and the road was bordered by an equally old rock wall, both of which were designed by the Roman engineers more than 15 centuries earlier. We started up a gentle incline when suddenly we were caught under German fire. We scrambled behind anything that might give protection, but the truth was we were surprised, outgunned, and we were too inexperienced. And the German army consisted of well-trained men, and we were poorly trained boys getting slaughtered by the German war machine. In the midst of heavy fire, my sergeant told me to look back to the rock wall that we had just come by and said, "Run like a jackrabbit, back to the wall and keep going, and don't look back even once." So I did just that, running back and forth like a jackrabbit as fast as I could, making my way to the wall. And while running, I thought I was in the middle of a swarm of bees, since I heard buzzing all around me. But then I realized that they were not bees, they were bullets, but I was not hit by any of them. And I made it to the wall and kept going, just as my sergeant told me. I have no doubt that he saved my life that day. I managed to escape unhurt, but I never saw my sergeant or any of the boys in my troop ever again. Now, that was not the end of my experience in World War I. You may have heard the term trench warfare. That was how we fought that war. And early on, when opposing forces met, there was nowhere to hide. So we got good at digging holes in the ground to hide in fast, and we called them foxholes. And if you stuck your head up out of your foxhole, it may be the last thing you did. So we kept making them bigger, and we would connect our holes with our buddies' holes, and they formed trenches, and this went on for years, and we didn't even think it would ever end. The Germans did the same thing, so we ended up with long trenches running parallel with each other, and sometimes our top brass would order an attack, and we had to climb out of our trenches and rush the enemy line, and a lot of my buddies would be shot before they even got completely out of the trench. The Germans also had something they called mustard gas. Its name was given because it was yellow, but it was poisonous. And they would throw gas canisters at our trench. And once the gas got in mine, and I ran as fast as I could, but I did breathe a little. And after that, I have never been able to smell anything for my entire life. And I think your grandmother Nanny liked that, however, because now she gives me really stinky jobs like cleaning out rotten food out of the kitchen drain. There you go. That was what I remember from the story that my grandfather taught or told me back in the 60s. I hope you liked it. Let me know. Talk to you later. Bye.
Did we tell you that we rode down from Spokane on that 727 in the first-class seats? It seems that we spent too long with Dick, Doreen, and Jill prior to loading, and when we got up to the loading area, found the place real crowded, and we were at the end, and the clerk there checking us in said he was sorry all the coach seats were gone, and I told him I didn't care much about riding on the tail of the plane. So he asked me if we needed smoking, and I says, no, we don't need that. And he says, okay, I'll put you in first class. Mom is going to do the other side of this tape, and I think I'm running out of time pretty soon, and I'm wondering what will happen here when I do run out of time. Do these two things flip up on the play and the record? Well, we'll find out when we get to the end of it. Carl, did you enjoy your sailing, or did you capsize at any time, or what happened on the lake? Did you get wet? Did you use your sails to haul in the catch that Bill had? I hope he had plenty of fish to bring home. And smoke or whatever you wanted to do with them.